Okay, great. We're going to get started. I want to thank everyone and welcome you all for joining Discovery Software's webcast entitled Increased Student Engagement in School Funding. Today we have three speakers lined up, I'm excited to say. The first off is Chris Howerton. He's our founder and Chief Technology Officer. He's going to speak to us about student connectedness and the positive impact to student engagement as well as school funding. Then we're going to have Mark Taylor, Dean of Students from Prospect High School. He's been kind enough to want to share his experiences in how the school has been leveraging our solutions. And then from there, we're going to have Michele Callow, Account Executive, who's going to provide a live demo on two of our solutions, Principalm and Intuitions. Before we get started, just wanted to say a couple quick housekeeping points. Please note that we're going to have a question and answer at the end. If you could please submit your questions throughout the chat during the webcast, and we'll make sure we answer them at the end. Also, please make sure you connect with us on Twitter. We're at Discovery Soft, or please join us on LinkedIn, where you can find us at Discovery-Software. Thank you so much. Now we're going to turn it over to our first speaker, Chris.
Hi there. I'm going to start with a really quick history of Discovery Software, just for those of you who don't know. We were formed in 1984, and I was the founder of the company. I come from a long line of teachers. My mom was a teacher, my grandmother was a teacher, I have an uncle who was a university prof, various cousins and aunts and stuff who were in education as well. When I was in education, I actually did a couple of locally developed courses, like the Computer Science 11 and 12 courses, and I even worked for the BC Union, the British Columbia Teachers Federation, for 3 years. But actually my degree is in computer science, and I'm one thesis short of a master's in education because I formed Discovery Software instead of completing a thesis. So it was kind of natural for me, since I was in education with a degree in computer science, that I would combine the two somehow, and that's what happened. Discovery Software was formed. The first product being something I needed for myself, which was a gradebook called Integrate Pro. And Integrate Pro became very, very successful. It got into about 15,000 schools, and it was owned at various times by McGraw-Hill School Systems, National Computing Systems, CTB, and Pearson. Now, while we were doing the work on the gradebook for those companies, they owned them, but we did the work, we started doing other contract work for them. And when it came down to it, a lot of these companies actually had products that were computer office systems, computer student information systems. And so we became real experts in understanding the school information systems. Go to the next slide if you like. Our goal is basically, because I was in education, of course, is to make the world a better place, because that's what teaching is all about, and that's what drew me to that. So the question becomes, how do you change the world? It's pretty big, and it's pretty hard to change the world all by yourself. So you have to change people so that they change the world for you. You got to do that to a lot of people. The best way to get the next generation to open up their minds and stuff like that is to teach them. Because education is not just about teaching facts. Education is about teaching people how to learn, because you want them to continue learning on their own. To change the world, we need to light fires. So I'm going to tell you a really quick story. This is a true story about a girl my wife teaches. Of course, my wife is a teacher. She teaches grade 3. She's been doing it for something like 35 years, as she reminds me almost every day. Last year, she had a little girl in her class. She teaches grade 3 who couldn't read. She had gotten through kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2 without learning how to read, and was actually identified as the student in the most need of, well, the second most need of help in the entire school. So rather than continue trying to give her assignments that other kids were ready to do, my wife basically set up a individualized program with her. And in the first 3 months, and this is key, in the first 3 months, she didn't worry about teaching this girl anything. The girl came from a broken home with a mother who had serious problems that we won't get into. My wife spent the first 3 months just getting the girl to trust her to feel safe, and to feel that school was an okay place to be. That took 3 months. No education per se went on during that time. By the end of the year, the girl was reading because she trusted what my wife was doing. And this year, on the first day of school in September, this little girl who's now in grade 4 came to her and told my wife that she had read every day during the summer. She had gotten books from the library and stuff and read every day, and now she can read. She's still a little bit behind, but she's not 3 years behind anymore. The point being is if you really want to change things, which we do, you have to change people. You have to make kids feel safe, be curious, and want to learn. This doesn't happen through days and days of standardized tests. Now, we're a software company. We know a lot about evaluation because of our years doing the gradebook, and lately, rubrics, which is sort of a better version of the gradebook that's rubric assessment. But if there's one thing I've learned in 50 years of being involved with software, it's that not everything is made better by computers, and that the human element is still really super important. Now, just because discovery software can easily write testing software doesn't mean that that's what education in the world actually needs at the moment. What your typical gradebook does is a necessary evil. Believe me when I say that we know the limitations of standardized testing. What's really important, if you want to change things, is to light fires in kids' minds. And to do that, you have to make them want to be in school. If they're hungry, if they're thinking about where their next meal is coming from, you're not going to teach them. If they don't feel physically safe and emotionally safe, their senses are going to be alerted to dangerous things. They're not going to be primed to take in new information. So to cut to the chase, a few years ago, I took 3 or 4 months at work here, which I can do because, of course, I founded the company, and I researched how we get kids to learn better, and it turns out that the key to the whole thing is school connectedness. It's soft science, but it's super important. Next slide. School connectedness. School connectedness is the belief by students that adults in the school care about their learning and about them as individuals. It's about the relationships, respectful relationships between students and adults. It has other kinds of names, you've probably heard of them: school climate, school engagement, social bonding, etc. The beauty of it is this: if you increase school connectedness, all kinds of good things happen. Graduation rates improve, gang membership goes down, use of alcohol and smoking and drugs goes down, even teen pregnancy is reduced. Attendance goes up, graduation rates go up, the schools, the kids' performance on tests and learning all go up. So connectedness is sort of the first thing. You've got to make them want to be in school. Because the problem is that right now, a lot of schools start to feel like prisons, right? They've got the guards all over the place because everybody's worried justifiably about things like school shootings, but they've got the guards all over the place, they've got metal detectors, and, well, it just doesn't make kids feel like it's somewhere they want to be. So what starts happening is 40% of high school students that are chronically disengaged start skipping class and dropping out. What we want to do is we want to build the school connectedness to improve that. Now there's another aspect to this, and that's that when kids drop out of school and when kids miss classes, it costs schools a lot of money. And you're going to learn a little later that it costs society a lot of money. So next slide. This is the effect here. I've taken 3 examples. You can see the 3 rows that I've got: Utah, average, and New York. Utah refers to the state of Utah, which is the lowest funded state for education. New York is the highest funded state. The average funding per state. Now, all I've counted in this is the 83% of funding that is federal, sorry, not federal, that is state and local funding. I'm not including federal funding and other funding sources like donations and bake sales. Okay, those count for 17%. State and local is typically about 83% of funding. Schools get funded in 2 ways, and this is actually something we learned through all of that contract work we did with other student information systems, the things that made Discovery understand a lot about it. Schools get funded basically on attendance, and that's really one of the major functions of every student information system there is. It's for tracking attendance and doing reports for the government so that the government knows how much money to give the schools. In Utah, the state and local funding comes to $6,212 per year. Now that's from a couple of years ago because the statistics are always a little bit late. So the per day funding is $34.50, right? When a student misses school, that's how much money the school loses. In New York, it's $100. The funding is a little bit different in each state. In some states, they don't do the funding on a per student day basis. So it's a little bit easier to understand if you think of it as what it's going to cost you in terms of dropouts. If you're just looking at dropouts, if a kid drops out in grade, say, 11, on average, you're going to lose $12,400 of funding the next year. Okay? If you're just worried about the state funding, of course, it's $5,509, but the fact is, when a student drops out, you're also not going to get any federal funding, and you're also not getting any local funding. Okay? So it's really expensive for a kid to drop out. But the funny thing is, how much the school loses, and it's a lot of money, you know, $19,000 in New York is nothing compared to what society loses. So next slide, please. Here's the facts. The reference link is at the bottom. A high school grad earns 30% more than non-grads on average. So they earn $25,900 a year versus $18,900. That's the average salary. That's a $7,000 difference. And over a 39-year working life, which is the average working life of an American worker, that comes to $273,000, which is $19.16 a day for 39 years. In other words, there may not be such a thing as a free lunch, but having an education is awfully close. You can actually live on food for $19.16 a day if you're careful. That's the cost to society. That extra $273,000 that's missing doesn't get taxed, obviously, because it's not there. So this affects tax, it affects crime rates, it affects health, it affects people. A lot of them end up going on welfare. You end up needing to pay for public health and stuff like that. So the point is, $273,000 is like 5 educators' salaries. All you got to do is make sure the kids stay in school. And the easiest way to do that, again, is to build connected. Next slide. Discovery is in a unique position. Because we did all this work with student information systems, we became experts on how they store data. We pulled data from about 100 different student information systems. And so we thought, if we've got all this data, why not analyze it? We believe, though, that we don't want that data being sent to us up on the internet to analyze. We want to do the analysis in the school district, on your own computers, on your own network. We don't want the student data because we're not going to sell it. We just want to make it so that you get data, you get information out of it. Okay? So we thought, why not add to our Principalm program the ability to analyze the data as well as make it available for use. Now, Mark, in a little while, Mark Taylor is going to talk about how they use Principalm in the school for emergencies and the value of talking to students and all that. But I want to talk about the fact that if you use this to keep students in school, it pays for itself. If you keep one student in school, it typically pays for the entire school's use of Principalm and Intuitions for between 5 and 8 years. Often it's more. It can be as much as 20 years in a small school. Okay? The point being, the real cost of a dropout isn't just school funding, which is huge and pays for this product. It's the fact that society ends up paying a lot of money for the people who don't graduate and don't get a proper education. It costs the United States and Canada a fortune every year. Okay, that's basically our goal. That's what Discovery does, and I think I'll pass it on next to Mark Taylor from Prospect High School.
Hello. How is everybody? Good. Hey, my name is Mark Taylor. I'm a Dean of Students at Prospect High School, and I kind of joke about it, but we were picked to use Principalm, and back in the day, which was 2006, our administration was a little tech leery. So I saw the value of this at a conference, and I just loved it. So I kind of convinced our administration at the time that we were picked out of all the schools in the United States to use Principalm. And once they saw it, once they saw the value of it, they really liked it too. We put together a little video of several people in our building that use it. I just want to show you that now.
Prospect High School, or Prospect, is a public four-year high school located in Mount Prospect, Illinois, a northeast suburb of Chicago, with an enrollment of about 2,200 students. It's part of Township High School District 214, which also includes Buffalo Grove High School, Elk Grove High School, John Hersey High School, Rolling Meadows High School, Wheeling High School, Vanguard School, and the Academy at Forest View. Prospect serves central Mount Prospect and a large portion of East Arlington Heights, close to the Mount Prospect village limits. In 2002, we began search for a system that would allow us to have the needed information when decisions were being made. We knew that by having the correct information at the precise time it was needed would help us make the best decision for the student, parent, or staff member. Over the next several years, that quest led us from a 3-ring binder to the application that we know and love today, called Principalm.
My name is Michele Dowling. I'm principal here at Prospect High School, and I'm a Principalm user.
I use Principalm all the time, and what I enjoy about it most is that it allows me to be mobile.
I would use Principalm for many different things. I like the versatility of it, especially the fact that all of our parents' phone numbers are in there.
Hi, my name is Aaron Martinstein. I'm an athletic trainer, physical education teacher at Prospect High School, and I've been using Principalm for about the last 7 years.
It's a very handy tool. I have it here on my phone, and I carry my phone with me everywhere.
When something comes up in the building and I need to figure out who someone is or how to get in contact with someone if there's an emergency, I don't have to come back to my office or go seek out somebody in another office. I can pull out my phone, pull out the kid's name, ID number, address, phone number, and make the contact that I need to. And for me, when I'm interacting with kids and families, that goes a long way. Being mobile is the key.
When I'm out in the field, whether it's at activities, events, in a classroom, it gives me on-the-spot information about a student, whether it's parent contact if I need to make phone calls. It gives me pictures of kids so that I can match them up and know who I'm speaking to. It gives me information like their course schedule, where I can find them during the day.
So if I got done talking with a student and I am not by my office or not by my a phone where I can call them directly from my cell phone by using the Principalm app.
Having over 2,200 students, it's hard to keep track of all that information, and this makes it very hands-on for me.
It gives me all the information that I need, home or away, to get in contact with parents, emergency contacts, and anybody else that is important to contact in the case of an athlete emergency.
Here we also have a safety dog program that we've been using for the last 15 years. The safety dog program helps us deter kids from bringing illegal substances to school. When the dog alerts on a car and we have to question the student and search their car, it helps me when I'm out in the parking lot to contact the parent while we're doing that process.
So no matter where I go, whether I'm walking around the building, whether I'm out in the field at sporting events or activities, or I'm at other schools, I always have access to some good basic information about all my students.
In the case of an emergency, it's a lot easier to have my cell phone with me and to go through Principalm than it is to carry around a big binder with 2,200 students and all their medical information.
Principalm allows us to better serve our students, our staff, and our community. With its ease of use and mobility, it's a tool that administrators can't live without.
So that video we put together kind of just for fun, because we really like Principalm. There's a lot more people in our building that use it as well than just what was in the video. Our nurse uses it as well. Some of our school psychologists and social workers, and find it, very helpful. There's a lot of different ways you can use it, and for example, like yesterday, I was working on a case We had some kids dealing drugs through an application called Kick, which is a messaging thing on an iPad. And the student who he was messaging was, his name was Angel. And we don't, I looked through all the angels, we don't have an angel in our building, a male angel. So the student, I said, do you have any classes with him? And the student said, yeah, I have math with him. So I went through, I looked at this student's schedule using Principalm. I went to his class list, I clicked on his class list, then I clicked on the class list of that math class and was able to see every kid in that class. So I kind of went through and showed him several pictures until we got to the student. Now he goes by Angel, that's his like nickname, but it's a different name. So if we didn't have Principalm right then and there, I probably would not have known who the student is. And it's very helpful in that way. Just the amount of information and the connectedness that we have with that is amazing. We've used Principalm with several different student information systems. We started off with Unisys, then we moved to School Logic, and now we're currently on Infinite Campus. And just how it updates for us now, working with Principalm's tech department and our guys here at our building, it's a really easy flow. So every day when I come in, I can just click my update on my Principalm app. It takes about 30 seconds to a minute. It updates. I have all updated attendance, discipline, any changes in phone, any changes in schedule. So I'm right up on the and current. So that is a great little piece. Chris talked about the school climate and getting to know students. If you don't know the student, it's very hard to for that student to feel comfortable and learn in the environment. Many years ago, we started a program called Knight's Way. Our school mascot is a knight, so we just started Knight's Way. And our goal there is to get kids connected. Using Principalm, we know faces of students. And like I said, when I walk into a classroom and to give a presentation on Knight's Way or something else, I'll first look at that class list, go through pictures, go through the names, and so I'm kind of familiar with a lot of kids, because the best thing a kid could hear is their own name in the building. So if an administrator like myself or our principal can call that student out by name, that just really makes that kid's day, makes them feel part of the building. So several years ago, when Twitter was a brand new kid on the block, we had a situation where a student was making threats to the school. And after the investigation and how he got that, the student really did not understand how Twitter worked and was making these threats, he thought, to his friends, as a funny joke, but he was hashtagging our district. And so our board members, all of our principals, everybody who follows our district got these threats, and they were pretty bad. I didn't know who the student was, had no idea. He's not a frequent flyer or a usual suspect, on my dean's list. But by using Principalm, I was able to, pull up his picture right away, send that to our principal. Myself and our school resource officer went over to his house that night while he was still in the basement, tweeting these tweets. So it was a very quick response on our part. That night, within an hour, I'd say probably within an hour and a half, we were able to shut down his Twitter account and kind of deal with that. We got the kid the help he needed, and the family as well. But it's kind of a very quick response there. If I had to come in, leave home, come back to school, get on my computer and do that, it would have taken quite a long time to do that. Like I said, traveling is another great one. If I'm on vacation or I'm at another event in the district, The Principalm software does not rely on your network to get information. Once it's on my phone, it's there, and it's solid. If it's raining out, weather, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to be, I can count on it to be to give me the information I need. So whether I'm at away games or sitting on an island with my toes in the sand, I can see and get information to people who need it at that time. So I always felt that once administrators, teachers, staff at buildings use this tool, and Principalm is just a tool in your school, I say you won't be able to live without it. And that is really true. I'm just excited now to start using Intuitions. We haven't made that jump yet, but we're going to do that. My admin team is ready, willing, and able to get into Intuitions. And with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Michele.
Great. Thank you, Mark. It's great to see a school using Principalm to its full potential. That video was fantastic. Hi, everyone. Michele Callow here. I'd like to share with you first a couple of other uses for Principalm. Mark's kind of alluded to them already as well, but a couple of other uses for Principalm that a lot of Principalm clients are utilizing is giving school nurses access to their medical information or students' medical information. So whether they're checking on a student's immunization records or addressing a situation out on the school ground, they have that information they need to act quickly as well. Another use, using the barcode scanner within Principalm. Very simple. All you do is click on Scan Student ID, which opens the camera on your mobile device. You scan the student's ID card with your barcode reader, and Principalm will provide you with that student's record immediately. And on the technical side, an important point I'd like to address is centralizing Principalm on a district-wide server if multiple schools in the district will be utilizing Principalm. So if Principalm is being used in multiple schools in your district, we strongly suggest having one IT person in charge of the setup for all the schools. This way, updates can be automated to run on a daily basis and all from one directory. Edits and updates then can be made at one source. This also saves time and effort of requiring multiple IT staff in each building and allows for additional schools at any time to be added without having to reconfigure or start a new setup. So next slide. So I'm just going to do a really quick refresher on Principalm. Principalm is so much more than extending your SIS data on your mobile device. If you're already using Principalm, you know that Principalm provides the mobile, secure, and instant access to your student data for your school security and your enhanced student safety. Principalm's always-on security and technology ensures student data is available even when there's no power or wireless access. Principalm also includes the base functionality to address school connectedness, behavior and conduct, care and safety in emergency situations, and communication. So like Mark said, being able to access a student's record quickly, finding out where they're actually supposed to be, say, instead of walking around in the hallways, that student is no longer anonymous. That student knows that you know them and that you care. So before we take a quick look at Principalm and our new product, Intuitions, let me tell you a little bit about Intuitions. So we know that Principalm provides you with all this great information directly from your SIS. And then wouldn't it be great if this information could do more than provide you with the student data to help with connectedness? What if there's a program that could take this data within Principalm and look for trends? Bring to your attention students who are, say, doing well, have great attendance, have good grades, or the students who are missing a lot of school and have failing grades. Intuitions then allows you to address the big issues before they become a problem. Intuitions is an in-app notification system advising when something important happens with your students. It does the data analysis for you. It can dramatically improve performance and school connectedness. And when Principalm or TeacherPalm receives fresh data, Intuitions looks for patterns and then creates that list for you. Again, to show you where attention is needed with the most, where attention is needed the most with your students, and address issues before they become a big problem. So with that said, now let's take a quick look at Principalm and Intuitions. Okay, so we've opened up the Principalm application. Bring up our sample data. So this is the home screen of Principalm. This is a license that has Intuitions attached to it, so we're just going to ignore Intuitions for now as I go through a demo of quick demo of Principalm. So your home screen of Principalm shows you that you can do a search on all your students, all staff and students, birthdays, and like I mentioned before, scan student ID. So you would just click on the Scan Student ID tab here. It would open up your camera. You scan the student's ID, and it would bring up the student's record right away. If you'd like to see who's having birthdays at your school, simply click on the Birthday tab. It'll bring up today's date. Anything that's highlighted in red is somebody who's having a birthday within your school. So you can click on that date, and today we can see that John Fairchild, who's a staff member, has a birthday today, and Shannon Birch, a student, has a birthday today. So we could click on, say, Shannon's record, and we could find out a little bit about her and find out where her schedule is, and if you wanted to, you could search her out and wish her a happy birthday, or if you just pass her in the hallway. So let's go back to the home screen again, and let's bring up our students. So there's many ways to search for a student in Principalm. You can either search by their first name, last name, their bus information, or even down at the bottom here, just like Mark was talking about in his safety dog program, you can search on license plate. So simply you would type in the car's license plate information, and whatever student belonged to that car would come up, and you can click on their information, find their schedule, and be able to find that student quick. So let's go back to our students, and let's bring up a student and go through their record. So let's look at Aaron. Right away, Aaron's record is bringing attention to the fact that he has a medical information and notes attached to his record. So you know right away that there's something additional that you can look for in his record. So we'll bring up Aaron. If you want to see a bigger picture, you just click on his picture. Brings up a bigger picture. We can look at his demographics. So these are all his demographics. It shows his homeroom, his counselor, anything with a right-facing arrow within Principalm alerts you that there's more information that you can find out here. So let's click on his homeroom class. This shows where the homeroom class is located, his homeroom teacher, and the students within this class. At this point, you could say look up the teacher's information or any of the other class members' information. So we can have a look at Heather here if we wanted to. That's the demographics. The contact information, so it shows Aaron and his contact information. If I needed to, say, get in touch with his parent, I could click on the parent's information. Here's the address. If you click on the address, the maps come up and it'll show you exactly where they're located. And if I needed to make a phone call, I could click on the phone number, brings up the dialer, and you can make the call now if you'd like. Go back, let's have a look at his medical information. So a list of Aaron's medical information, the most important being highlighted with the red circle, and then his medical history. So any treatment that the school nurse may have done or a list of his immunizations would be here. Any notes associated with Aaron. So it's important to remember that the information provided to you in Principalm is that it's being pulled from your SIS. So if you don't collect notes about a student within your SIS, this information won't be brought over. So here's the notes within Principalm, the most important ones again being highlighted with the red circle. Go down a little farther here. Here's Aaron's schedule. Click on his schedule. You can pick which semester you'd like to be in. We'll stay in the second semester. You pick which day. Let's pick day 4. Brings up his classes. I can click on any of these classes. Again, I can look at the information for the staff member or any of the other students within that class. Aaron's attendance. Again, brings up his attendance, excused, tardy, or unexcused. Let's have a look at this unexcused one. The date, which class it was. Again, I could click on PE 12. It'll bring me to that whole class. And then the fact that this was an unexcused absence. Aaron's grades. Again, you can pick the quarter. So if you wanted to, you could go back. Let's look at quarter 3. Lists all his classes. I could go to any of these classes and have a look at any of the other students within this class. Or the teacher's information as well. And conduct. Again, if you're SIS or if at your school or district you don't track conduct or discipline, this information won't be brought over into Principalm. But with conduct, it'll show that the situation, the details, where it happened, the outcome, and other people that may be involved. Now that is pretty much Principalm. Let's go and have a look at Intuitions now. So we'll click on Intuitions. Up comes the list of the 12 intuitions that we currently have in Intuitions. You can click on this, or let's have a look at, say, low average grades. And let's have a look at Sharon here. So as you can see again, it's bringing up the fact with the star that there is an intuition attached to Sharon. It's also alerting you to the fact that she has medical information within her record and notes attached to her record. Within Intuitions, you can choose to either save this for later, so perhaps you're very busy and you do want to talk to Sharon, but you want to deal with it later. So we can say save for later. And if it's later, we can go into our saved for laters, and there's Sharon. Bring Sharon up again. Now I've spoken with Sharon. If I wanted to, I can add to record and type in a note here. We'll just say dealt with. And use this, and it'll be attached to Sharon's record. We wanted to see which students we've added notes to records to. Here's Sharon. And you can see down here that we've dealt with this. If you wanted to, you could even delete it if you wanted it right out. The same goes for any of the other intuitions. Same idea. Look at grade attendance. Click on that student. You can save it for later, deal with it now, add it to record. Or perhaps you want to even just go in to Maria's contact information and demographics and schedule and whatnot within Principalm. You just click on her name and it'll bring you to her Principalm record, and you can look up any information on Maria. So that is pretty much Principalm and Intuitions. Okay, so now that you've had a bit of history on Discovery software and listened to Mark tell us and show us how Prospect High School values Principalm, and watched my quick demonstration, we'd like to offer our webinar participants a great limited time offer on Intuitions. Intuitions, being an add-on to Principalm, normally sells for 49 cents per student per school. For those of you attending today's webinar, we'd like to extend the initial annual subscription of Intuitions to you of 29 cents per student per school to the end of January. So that's January 31st to 2016. You can contact me directly. I believe the contact information will be shown at the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to provide you with a quote. So now I'm going to set the controls back over to Anna, and we can open up the floor to questions.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Mark, for your insightful discussion today. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to questions now, and throughout the webcast, a few have come in. So anyone that wants to pose a question, please use this time now to submit it through the chat or in the question area within your panel. And okay, so I'm going to look at the first one here, and then we can decide who the best person is to answer it. Okay, we've unfortunately let our Principalm licenses lapse. We'd like to get back up and running on Principalm and are very interested in Intuitions. You mentioned the special pricing, so I just mentioned that now. You just mentioned that now, Michelle. What is the cost to get up and running on Principalm?
Okay, great. Principalm is sold as an annual subscription school license. It's an unlimited user school license, and it's an annual subscription. And currently, Principalm is selling for 49 cents per student per school. So if you'd like to get a quote for getting back up on Principalm, grab my contact information, send me an email, or give me a quick call. We'll talk about the schools you want to set up, and I'll get you a quote.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And I've now put your contact email up on the screen, so if anyone wants to note that now during the continuation of the questions, they can do so. Okay, so we have another question here. It's about both Principalm and Intuitions. Our SIS does not track discipline. Will Principalm and or Intuitions provide us with that information? I think you touched on that within your presentation, Michelle, but if you could just answer the question here.
Sure. So what Principalm is doing is pulling the data from your student information system, encrypting it, and bringing it over into Principalm. If you don't currently track conduct or discipline throughout your student information system, that won't come over into Principalm. Intuitions being an add-on to Principalm, Intuitions is taking that data from Principalm and looking for trends. If you don't have that conduct or discipline information there, it won't provide you an intuition for that, for conduct.
Great, thanks, that makes sense. Okay, I'm just screening through a few more here, scrolling through. Okay, Mark, this one looks like it's for you. How long after you started using Principalm did you notice a difference in your school?
Oh, pretty quickly. You know, we when we first started it, I just used it really for our security, and our security that we hired here at Prospect are retired. You know, most of them are grandparents, so not very threatening at all, but you know, very concerned about our kids. And when they had the Principalm app in their hand, when they go up and talk to students about cutting classes or whatever, the kids kind of got on that they can't get around the fact of when the kids would say that they have lunch or they have open or you know they don't have class, the teacher, you know, all those excuses that we used to get that had to come down to our office to check out, they now had it in their hand, and you know they walk them to class, and it was very quick. So then probably about a month afterwards, you know, when our staff would, you know, walk into a group of students, you know, they would just be, all right, we're going to class. We're going to class. All right. So it was very quick. That turnaround. Our staff really love it.
That's great. Thank you. I can picture that. That there's no hiding. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Another question here. Okay, it kind of follows up nicely from what the question to Mark was in terms of you saying you extend it to multiple people within the school. So the question, Michelle, this is for you. Do we need multiple licenses if we'd like our nurses and athletic directors or others to use Principalm?
No. Like I mentioned, Principalm is sold as an unlimited user school license.
Great.
So whether you have your principals, assistant principals, your nurses, your athletic director, they all can share off of that one license.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. Chris, this one looks like it's for you. How does the student data stay secure with our products?
Well, the main thing we do is we make sure it doesn't go up to the internet. So it's on your student information system, which is usually on a computer in your school district. And then the extract, we have a program called SIS Liberty because it liberates the data from your student information system. That runs on a computer, again, in your district. It pulls the data out of your student information system and sends it to Principalm, which is also in your district. And Principalm ends up being in an encrypted file on your mobile device, whether it's an iPhone or an Android device. And you've got besides the encryption, you've got the regular locks and things that are on the phone and the ability to erase things remotely. As well, we do things like have options that you can set when you send the data up that have options like after so many failed attempts with the password, automatically erase the data, or after a certain date, automatically erase the data, that sort of thing. But the main thing is the data stays in the school's control. It's not sent to a third party, including us. And so as long as your IT department has locked down your student information system, you should be good to go.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Very insightful. Looks like we only have one more question. So attendees, if there's any more questions, please make sure that you submit them now. We're getting to the end of the webinar here. Okay, this one looks like it's for you, Michelle. How can I show intuitions to the other administrators in our district?
Oh, great question. So if you, whether or not you're already currently a Principalm user or not, but if you are and you're wanting to add intuitions, you can, there's three things we can do for you, one or all three. You can download the Principalm app from the either Android store or the iPhone or iOS App Store, and download Principalm, and it has the same sample data that I was showing you here, and you can play around with that. If you have a current Principalm license, we can certainly set you up with a temporary trial license of Intuitions to work with your current student data within Principalm. And then we can also schedule a time to do an online tour of Principalm and Intuitions, or just Intuitions, whatever you like. So again, if out of all those options, feel free if you want to extend the knowledge of Intuitions to the rest of your staff, feel free to give me a call and we can set something up for you.
Great, thanks, Michelle. We actually have your email address up on the screen, so if anyone wants to email you, then you can connect after on the phone.
Absolutely.
Looks like another question has trickled in here. Can we pick and choose which intuitions we'd like to have? That's a good question. And are there more than 12 intuitions available? So you mentioned 12, Michelle, when you spoke. Chris, do you want to answer that question?
No, you pretty much get them all. It's built in. And we're actually waiting for other people to send in requests for us to create more intuitions. They're actually, well, maybe not easy for us to create, but we have a system where we can add more fairly easily. If, for example, you don't have things like discipline, if you're not doing discipline tracking, then that kind of intuition isn't going to show any data, obviously. But yeah, we're willing to add more. Just ask for them.
Great, thanks, Chris. And I know the roadmap is evolving, which is exciting as well. So for people to stay tuned, follow us on Twitter, DiscoverySoft, or to check out our website, discoverysoftware.com, or even on our LinkedIn profile, Discovery-Software. You'll see updates of upcoming webcast and future products and intuitions as well on there. So thank you so much. Looks like that's all the questions we have today. I'll give it a couple more moments here in case there's some shy folks. Going once, going twice. Okay, so that concludes it. Thank you for your questions, attendees, and your participation today, and to speakers Chris and Michelle. Very insightful information. On behalf of Discovery Software, I'd like to extend a big thank you to Mark for wanting to share your stories and school experiences with everyone here today, and for those that will watch it when we put this on demand. The efforts made by your administration, team, your students, and the fact that you wanted to proactively create this video is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much for your work on that. Attendees,
You're welcome.
thank you. Attendees, as I said, please don't forget to connect with us on our social channels. We do look forward to collaborating with you further to improve the lives of students today, after high school, and for the rest of their lives. This webcast has been recorded for your playback and will be sent out within the next few days to participants as well as those who weren't able to attend today. This concludes our broadcast. Have a great day.